buttercup, you're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, we're going to do a deep dive today into that wild Ohio State-Tennessee college football playoff game. You know, we go deep here, so we dug into all those live updates and post-game analysis from that CBS Sports article, to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, it really went beyond just the final score. I mean, the pregame story was so different. Like, remember how that CBS article was all about Tennessee winning?
Right. They even had them favored by 7.5 points.
Yeah, and all those Tennessee fans in Ohio Stadium, it seriously felt like a Vols home game.
It was crazy, almost like they had the home field advantage. But then Ohio State just comes out and scores in their first 3 drives.
I know.
Can we just talk about Jeremiah Smith for a sec? That freshman wide receiver, I mean, that 37-yard diving touchdown catch on that very first drive was unreal.
Yeah, he was incredible. And you know what I think? It seems like Ohio State really knew how to use him to get at Tennessee's weaknesses. You know, Tennessee's secondary is known for being super physical, but they were totally not ready for someone as fast and agile as Smith. Yeah, it's like Ohio State knew exactly where to hit him, and Smith was like their secret weapon. But on the other side of things, Tennessee's offensive line was really struggling to protect Nico Iamaleava. He was under pressure constantly. They couldn't get any kind of flow going on offense.
And that pressure wasn't just from Ohio State's defensive line being strong. It was their whole scheme. They had these crazy blitzes. They were disguising coverages. Iamaleava looked so lost out there.
Like he had no idea what was coming at him.
It was like a chess match, and Ohio State was outsmarting them every single move.
But, you know, Tennessee, they did fight back in the second quarter. They cut the lead down to 21-10. Iamaleava started to find his groove a little. And they got that roughing the passer call that seemed a little iffy.
Right. That definitely helped them get back in the game. But even then, I started to see some problems. Remember when Squirrel White and Dylan Sampson got hurt?
Oh, yeah.
That took away a lot of their offensive power.
Yeah.
And you could see it kind of shook their confidence.
So at halftime, even though Ohio State was dominating, it still felt like anyone could win. And then the third quarter starts, and it's like, Ohio State just flipped a switch. Bam, bam, 2 more touchdowns, and suddenly it's a blowout.
It's interesting because Ohio State didn't just rely on those big plays from Smith. They totally dominated on the ground, too. Tre'Von Henderson was averaging like 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Remember Tennessee had a top 10 rush defense coming into this game?
Yeah, they were supposed to be really good at stopping the run.
Exactly. So this wasn't just Ohio State being good. It was them showing that there was this big weakness in how Tennessee was playing defense.
And Iamaleava in that Tennessee offense, they just couldn't keep up. It felt like they were always trying to catch up, never able to find a rhythm.
Yeah, they got too predictable. And Ohio State's defense ate that up. Like watching a machine take apart something that wasn't put together.
Right. That's a great way to put it. So the final score, 42-17, a huge win for Ohio State. But beyond the score, what really stuck out to me were the individual performances, especially Jeremiah Smith. 103 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And he's a freshman.
He was phenomenal. But, we got to give Will Howard some love, too. Completing over 70% of his passes, throwing for 2 touchdowns. He was calm, collected, made smart decisions all game.
It's so easy to just focus on Smith's highlight plays. But you're so right, Howard was so consistent. And then you add Henderson's running game.
Yeah.
And you have this 3-headed monster. Tennessee just couldn't handle it.
That's what makes this Ohio State team so dangerous. They have so many options. But what impressed me the most was how they used those options. That strategic targeting of Tennessee's weaknesses.
Yeah, it really makes you think. Was Tennessee's defense overrated? Or did Ohio State just find this weakness that no one else saw? I'm kind of leaning towards that second one. It felt like they had Tennessee figured out right from the start.
That's an interesting thought, I think. It's funny you bring that up because that CBS article had a whole section breaking down Tennessee's defense. They called it wilting away, which sounds kind of harsh. But when you think about it, 42 points. That was the most they gave up all season.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like a couple of big plays here and there. Ohio State had 12 plays of at least 15 yards, 4 of them over 25 yards.
Right. So that's not just a few missed tackles. That's a pattern. And what's crazy is Ohio State averaged 4.7 yards per carry on the ground. And remember, Tennessee had the 8th best rush defense in the country coming into this game.
Yeah, they were supposed to shut down the run game. So what do you think? Was this more about Ohio State's offense being amazing or Tennessee's defense not actually being as good as everyone thought?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Ohio State obviously came in with a plan to attack Tennessee where they were weak, but Tennessee couldn't adjust. Like they couldn't figure out a way to counter what Ohio State was doing.
So they basically got outcoached. Let's talk about Ryan Day for a second. The CBS article mentioned this was only his second college football playoff win, and there was so much pressure on him after they lost to Michigan.
Yeah, he definitely needed this win. It shows he can learn from his mistakes and make changes, lead the team to victory when it really matters.
It definitely shuts up those doubters for now.
At least for now.
And speaking of big wins, did you see that this was the second largest loss ever for an SEC team in the college football playoff?
Wow, really?
Yep. Kind of crazy when you think about how the SEC is supposed to be the toughest conference in college football.
Right. It just goes to show you those rankings and predictions don't mean everything. Any team can be vulnerable, and Ohio State totally exposed that in Tennessee.
Absolutely. So where does this leave both teams now? Ohio State's obviously moving on to face Oregon in the Rose Bowl. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Oh, man, that Rose Bowl is going to be good. Ohio State already lost to Oregon this season, so they're going to be looking for revenge. Plus, Oregon's offense has been on fire lately.
Yeah, Bo Nix has been playing great.
It's going to be a real test for Ohio State.
For sure. And even though Tennessee's season is over, they still had a great year, 10 wins, and they have Nico Iamaleava, who's a really talented young quarterback.
Yeah, they've got a lot to build on. You just got to learn from this experience, figure out those weaknesses, especially on defense.
Exactly.
If they can do that, they can be a real contender next year.
So when we look back at this Ohio State-Tennessee game, what do you think is the biggest thing fans should take away from it?
For me, it's all about adapting and evolving. Ohio State showed they could change their game plan to take advantage of Tennessee's weaknesses. But Tennessee just kind of stayed the same. And in college football, you got to be able to change. You got to adapt to survive.
Especially at this level.
Exactly.
So it's not just about having talent. It's about using that talent the right way and being able to change things up when things aren't working.
You got it. This game showed us that even the best teams can be beaten. And sometimes the difference between winning and losing is about who can make the right changes at the right time.
That's a great point. This deep dive has been really insightful. We went way beyond just the score and highlights to really understand what was going on in this game.
For sure.
The strategy, the individual players, and what it all means for both teams.
It's these kind of deeper insights that make these deep dives so awesome for fans who really want to understand the game.
Exactly. So as you watch the Rose Bowl and follow these teams, keep in mind everything we talked about today. Think about the strategy, the matchups, and how college football is always changing. You know what else I keep thinking about? Ohio State's run game. You remember that CBS article kept talking about it? It's crazy because Tennessee had the 8th best rush defense in the country.
It's true. Makes you really appreciate how well Ohio State ran the ball.
Yeah, they didn't just run well. They dominated. That article really highlighted Trevan Henderson. 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was breaking tackles and making huge gains.
Oh, yeah. Henderson was a beast. But we got to give some love to that offensive line, too. They were the ones opening those holes for him, giving him the space to do his thing.
Right. It was a team effort for sure. It really shows how much depth and versatility Ohio State has on offense. They could beat you with Smith's big plays through the air or just pound it on the ground with Henderson.
Yeah, and that made them so hard to defend. Tennessee was so focused on stopping the pass, which left all those openings for Henderson in the running game.
It was like pick your poison.
Exactly.
It's interesting to think about how this game might affect both teams going forward. Ohio State's obviously happy with the win, but they got to stay focused for that Rose Bowl against Oregon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oregon's a whole different challenge. Bo Nix is electric on offense, and their defense has been playing lights out.
Yeah, they can't afford to underestimate Oregon.
Nope. They're going to have to play their best to win that one.
And for Tennessee, this loss has got to be a wake-up call. They've got talent, but they've got some holes to fill. That CBS article didn't hold back. They said Tennessee's defense was extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they said that. They just couldn't match Ohio State's intensity, especially on defense.
So if they want to be contenders next year, they've got some work to do.
Definitely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's clear that this Ohio State-Tennessee game was way more than just a win or a loss. It was a clash of styles, a battle of strategy, and we saw some incredible individual performances.
It really was. And it reminded us that in college football, nothing's guaranteed. The rankings and predictions don't mean everything. Any team can surprise you.
Absolutely. That's what makes it so fun to watch. So as you keep following Ohio State and Tennessee, remember what we talked about today. Look past those headlines. Think about the strategy and appreciate how the sport is always evolving. We'll be back soon with another deep dive, but until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations going.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll, show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get